What's up, guys? It's Boy140 here, and for the first time in a long time, I'm doing another discussion with my friend Stan. He's also a YouTuber, you probably know him already. So thanks for joining me, Stan. And today we're talking about E3 2016, and it's been pretty exciting. Not a lot for Nintendo, but it was still pretty exciting. They had a lot of quality, not quantity. So first we're gonna go over like who we thought like won E3.
For lack of a better term.
Yeah, for lack
of
a better term.
That's a really controversial term. Just kind of meaning like who we think, I mean, subjectively kind of had the better showing, I suppose.
Yeah. So like, in my opinion, objectively, not like my personal opinion, but like objectively, I think Sony definitely won E3 again.
Yeah.
Because of all the stuff they did. They didn't focus on, oh, we have an upcoming console, we have a game that's so far away, they just like went all out on games, and a few coming soon, a few coming late, and just it was all about games for them, and it was games that were good, not like a bunch of Call of Duties and Battlefields, but also things like the new Crash games that are getting remastered, Spider-Man, which I saw in my sub feed and I was like, oh my god, there's a new Spider-Man that's probably not gonna be as bad as the Amazing Spider-Man games.
Yeah,
I might buy a PS4 now, you know. And so many things. I think they did God of War too. I'm not really big on that series, but I heard about that and stuff like that. That's crazy. Like they had Kojima on stage, a bunch of stuff that just I feel like objectively won them E3. Like they had
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely insane, their showing. Not that, I know there's many showings, you know, there is Bethesda, there is Ubisoft.
I feel like Bethesda was a little underwhelming this year. Like, I don't blame them for that, because they had a lot last year. Like, the whole thing was Fallout 4.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like they did fine for what they had, but for Microsoft, I feel like they could have done great, but I feel like they got a little convoluted with the Project Scorpio thing. Like, I feel like it's a little
I think there were a few things. I think just, again, it like they had a solid showing. Like if I was grading them like someone like Pro Jared did, I think he gave them like a B, and like that's kind of what I would give them as well. It certainly was by far not the worst E3 presentation
it wasn't bad.
they've ever done. They're not doing damage control right now, which is a good thing for them. And like somebody said, I was watching, you know, don't stone me on this one, but I was watching some of the IGN coverage, and like one of the people said, I think it was Marty Silva or whatever, he basically said, like, you know, this seems like the first time that they're not playing catch up. They're not reacting to things. They're actually going out there and they're kind of just like standing their ground, and they're kind of using Microsoft as this giant infrastructure and platform that's going to give them elements that might appeal to people that PS4 and Wii U definitely will not. And so I think they had a great showing. And one thing, before like I gush about PS4 conference, because by far, I agree with you. I think that was the far superior one once again. But I do just want to say something to keep in mind as well, though, is that while Nintendo only really focused on games that are coming within the next, like, literally, like, annual year. Like, by next June, every game they showed today will be out, right? Every game they're doing at the conference right now, whether it's Monster Hunter or Pokemon or Zelda or whatever. And with PlayStation, they really opted to go, like, far beyond. Like some people were saying like that Kojima game probably won't even see the light of day until like 2018, 2019. So like that's just that's more like a seed right now with beautiful cinematics than it is an actual fleshed out game that you'll have anytime soon. Where Xbox was kind of the middle ground. Like they had release dates for everything, basically, even Scorpio to an extent. And I think in that sense, they did a great job as well. Like, although I do wish Nintendo and Microsoft, even though I do believe release dates are very important, honestly, I love how Sony's able to capitalize on that hype machine and really use hype and cinematic trailers and announcements to, like, the power of hype is a huge thing, as we've all seen from the Smash Bros. Release trailers and speculating. Like, most of the time, I don't know about you, but, like, I enjoy the speculation components a lot more than even sometimes the games themselves. Like, just that weight, that eagerness. And I'm doing that currently with Pokemon and Zelda. And, like, Nintendo, I feel like it's a missed opportunity to wait so close to, you know, when the games are releasing to finally give us some, like, real details. Because, like, if they had released even a title like 2 years ago, it would have, like for Zelda,
Yeah.
you know, mind would have been blown, and it would have created even that much more hype. But regardless, yeah, Sony killed it. My favorite personal part, at least, was the Spider-Man 4. Insomniac Games is doing it, which means it's going to be a good Spider-Man game. Like, it might not be perfection, it might not be what Batman is to Arkham Knight, but you can expect a fun, and you can expect just a creative, like, amazing world that, and the travel is, I can guarantee one thing, the travel is going to take what Spider-Man 2 did on the original, like, PS2, I think, and just absolutely, like, push that up. It's going to be that game on steroids in terms of travel, because
I hope so.
I don't know if you played Sunset Overdrive. I don't own it, but I have played it, and, like, the method of traveling in that game is stupendous. Like, it's so much fun. It's probably the most fun part of that game. And so they know how to do motion, and they know how to do travel, and I'm really looking forward to that. And God of War 4 to start off the show, or just God of War, I think, as they're calling it. Great improvement, and like, I'm not a massive fan of that series either, but it seems that the devs have definitely been taking a look at Uncharted and Last of Us, and really incorporating that style into the world of Kratos and mythology, and I am all for that. Like, I currently own a PS4, not a big God of War guy, but that's a game that, like, I am definitely interested in now. That was a great way to open that show.
Yeah, like as I was saying before, I said objectively PS4 definitely won, and obviously I'm really hyped for Crash remakes and Spider-Man. Spider-Man was also my, like, when I saw it in the sub box, that's when I went and watched the entire conference, because I wanted to see what the whole thing was about.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so, but for me personally, because I'm such, like, a nostalgia boy, Nintendo definitely won in my subjective opinion, because I just love Zelda that much. And basically, my whole life I've been, like, wanting this game that has, like, the Nintendo charm. And I know that, like, Stan was saying that, like, there are plenty of PlayStation games like it, but for some reason, it's like, I felt like if Nintendo did it, it would be what I've always wanted. It's like this open world adventure, but still has an amazing story and stuff like that. Like, I know there's games like Witcher and Bioshock and stuff like that, but I'm not really, I want, like, the Nintendo charm, you know. And then I saw what the game was today, and how open yet, like, intuitive it was, you know. And it wasn't, it was like Zelda 1 transferred into the 21st century. Not 21st.
Sort of.
Not like that. But I'm trying to sum it up before we go into Zelda U, which is going to be in a bit. But I'm just saying, like, that's why Nintendo for me won. But Sony, objectively, like, there was no competition. Although Microsoft's conference was great. Like, don't get me wrong, I watched it, and even as someone who's never owned an Xbox, I enjoyed it.
You know what my favorite part of the Microsoft conference was, honestly, and I'll say this really quick, because I know we have to keep time, but just the fact that they're, like, offering that, like, 8 million combinations of, like, customization controller.
Yes, I saw
and
that.
It's official. Like obviously, like, I've worked with Controller Chaos in the past, and, like, there's nothing like having a personalized controller with, like, your tag, and like it's so cool. So, like, the fact that they're now making that, it kind of sucks for custom controller companies, but I mean, like, as a gamer, and, like, having that price point stay, I think it's only like $10 more or something for getting something so personalized, is incredible. Like, I hope that that's one of the things that, like, they've innovated on now, and Nintendo and Sony follow.
I really hope so, because when I saw that too, I was just like, that's pretty incredible. And I saw that was my favorite color, and I was like, oh my god.
I know that's sad, but, like, I loved that more than their hardware, their teraflops. I loved it more than, you know, Halo Wars 2, which I think was one of the better trailers of the entire, like, conference. That Halo Wars 2 trailer, I'm not a huge fan of that type of game, but that trailer was amazing. I loved when, like, the Brute Chief just, like, stroked, like, the missile in, like, slow motion as, like, time was. It was really cool. It was really cool. But anyway, no, like, back to Nintendo and sort of back to Zelda. I still, like, I subjectively also thought the Sony conference was better. But there's no denying that Nintendo, obviously, as anybody who grew up on the Zelda series and just Nintendo games in general, this is huge, because like, they're really, really showing me, like, well, everybody right off the bat, that, like, those whole rumors about they're playing with the formula and they're, like, trying to, you know, break out of that, those are absolutely, like, I was kind of worried that it was one of those, like, Nintendo says something and then they do the complete opposite, but my worries were put to rest today, because, like,
it looks incredible.
It's incredible, and, like, the risks they're taking, I love that there's... We'll get into that thing, but the other thing I love before we get into that...
Sorry, I was about to get
is voice acting, for those of you who... but no, the other thing I love is the technological feel. I know, like, there's already the memes that he has the iPad, but I've been saying for years, I want a futuristic Zelda game. And before we really dig into Nintendo, because I know we're about to do that, I just want to also say it's interesting that from the PS4 conference, we saw Horizon Zero Dawn, which to me, and now seeing this Zelda game, they seem fairly similar, like concepts. Like they're both this like very, nature world, but then you have all of these like machines and mechanized technology like incorporated in the world, and it's become like a natural part. Now, Zelda still seems to keep that like natural medieval style a little bit closer to its chest and like to its core, but Horizon Zero Dawn looks great. That was honestly like my biggest like surprise of the show, and now I'm kind of like, man, like these games are really similar. So I'm gonna wait to see more, obviously, but like I just noticed that like as you were saying to me today, like talking about all the things that this new game brings, and I'm like, man, that seems really familiar. Oh yeah, like Sony just announced, followed up on a game that's kind of like, even the main character, I'm looking at a picture right now, and like she's wielding a bow, just like, and it's like a technologically like advanced bow, but it's still like a natural looking bow with like cybernetics, and it kind of reminds me of the one Link has in the new game. But anyway, that's like a whole caveat, and I'm sorry for going on a tangent there.
No.
It's something I really noticed, and honestly, I'm going to play both of these games regardless. So like, it's no sweat off my back. The more good games out there, the better. But like, it was a little thing I noticed that like, it's weird that these two games like that have both been in development for like the same amount of time kind of ended up in similar paths. Although the one thing that Zelda has that Horizon Zero Dawn will never have is, like you said, that Nintendo charm. That wondrous sense of adventure that's now actually going to feel like an adventure.
Yes. Now, before we go into Zelda, because I have like 50 million things that are like charting out my brain of like all the things I want to talk about. I know I'm like holding that back. Let's talk about our differences. So, I've been listening to a few podcasts, and I've been thinking recently, like when that new Crash art released and leaked a few months ago, I was like, oh my god, that looks like a Skylander. No, I was like, nah, that's not true. They're gonna remake his games, and I was like, that's gonna be really awesome. And then I saw that, and then I saw my sub feed because I'm subscribed to IGN because I listen to NVC and a bunch of other stuff too.
Me too.
No shame. And I saw it pop up and it said Skylanders Imaginators, and I was like, it didn't show Crash, it just said Skylanders Imaginators. I was like, they didn't, did they? And I checked the trailer and I see it said someone's crashing a party, and I was like, oh my god. And then it showed Crash, and I was like, oh my god. And then I saw a comment talking about them remaking the games, and that's when I went and watched the Sony conference, and I was like, yes, they're remaking the games. So first I was a little outraged. I even like mentioned on Twitter about how I was angry and stuff. So what I'm feeling right now is like, I'll take him being in Skylanders because we're getting the remake, but if there was no remakes and he was just like a new Skylanders character, I'd be pretty pissed because he'd be the new Spyro,
Right.
Shoved to the side and everything.
Absolutely.
But since he's not, he's getting his own remakes on PS4. I'm pretty happy. I'll take it, even though he's in Skylanders. And honestly, it might turn out to be a cool thing. I'm definitely going to look for PS4 in the upcoming years because of Spider-Man, Final Fantasy VII, and these remakes. And a few other games that I've seen that look pretty cool. So I might try out the Skylanders game in the coming years when it comes out, or whenever I get my hands on a PS4. And it might be cool, it might be good. Like, I've only played the first two Skylanders. The first one I played, and I really enjoyed it. The second one I only played like halfway through and got really bored. It's an enjoyable series, but it gets old real fast. But I wonder how Crash is going to fit in. I'm angry a little bit, but I understand why it's happening. It's like
I'm pretty removed and I'm pretty unfamiliar with the Skylanders series as it came out at a time when I was already almost done high school. So I'm a little bit beyond that in some sense, although I've heard it's a blast, and I probably should check it out and not just be like, oh, it's for kids, because I've heard actually great things about it. But saying that, even though you've kind of already like conceded your original point of like, I don't want Crash in Skylanders, I do want to like just kind of point out two caveats that I think, well, I don't know if they're caveats, but just like two little, debating points that I kind of came up with in prep for this reaction podcast, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, there's two things. One, I look at Crash being in Skylanders, not because, again, it's not Skylanders like starring Crash. It's like Crash is coming to Skylanders, this new one, Imaginorium or Torium or whatever it's called. Imaginations. I'm sorry, I totally forget what it's actually called. I will find it just so that. But yeah, he's coming to that game, almost as if it feels to me kind of like how last, E3, we got Ryu in Smash Bros. Or anytime, Nintendo's trying to push a game, they do it through Smash Bros. And this kind of seems like this is what's happening with Activision. Like whenever they, have a game they're looking to promote, it's kind of like Microsoft with Killer Instinct as well. Like anytime they have a new game they're trying to promote, they put a character from that game into this game. And it seems like Activision's doing that now with Crash, right?
I get that, but at the same time, the reason I was originally angry is because we've seen what happened with Spyro. Obviously,
right.
Like he has the same story as Crash, and then he's put in Skylander. It was called Skylander's Spyro's Adventure, and he was like, even on the box art, it was pretty funny because he's like put to the side next to this weird like green ninja lady, and like he was completely forgotten in the future games. So that's what I was worried about. But I understand your point, and I kind of I get it. Like, and definitely since we're getting the remasters now, I kind of see that.
Right,
like,
and like that's okay. So that's my like second point, I guess, and this is the big one for sure. Is that if they had have just put Crash in Skylanders, it would have been a slap in the face, kind of like how the Metroid Prime fans felt about Federation Force a year ago.
Yeah.
Because they're anticipating this thing. They're getting all worked up. It's the 30th anniversary coming up, and like, yeah, we did it, but we did it in a way you really didn't want, you hardcore fans who were the ones who cared in the first place. And like, so now, like, I don't know, I can personally kind of see where like those like people who were complaining about that, I can see they were a little bit justified. But what makes this better, and what would have made that Metroid announcement better, was the fact that yes, it's coming with remasters, which I believe is going to work. Like these two things are going to work in tandem, and it's Sony's basic like initiative trying to relaunch Crash into, a new type of gaming. A new like Crash hasn't had like he's unproven enough that like you don't know how it could go. And I know there's like tons of people out there thinking right now, well, it's Crash Bandicoot, it's the 20th anniversary, like that's gonna sell absolutely. But you got to remember, everybody said the same thing about PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale when that came out, because like how could that fail? It's Smash Bros with Sony characters, and it did. Like that studio actually went bankrupt and collapsed. So like it's a huge investment anytime you're trying to like make a brand new game. And I think this is just their way of testing the waters. And honestly, just vote with your wallet. I mean, no matter what, this is good publicity for the Crash Bandicoot series, and like it can only mean good things. But like if those remakes do really, really well, Activision will probably try to make a Naughty Dog-esque Crash Bandicoot game, like in HD, or like so. It's just I find it interesting that like all these people like going off about the Crash and Skylanders thing, but not realizing how similar it is to the whole Metroid Federation Force thing from last year, right? But we got something that those people did not, that community didn't, and that's actual like faith in the property in a timely fashion as well, right? Because I'm sure there still is a
Stan?
announcing it there. They were just like, no, we'll save it. So we'll see. But yeah, so those were just kind of my two counter arguments to Crash being in Skylanders.
Sorry, is your mic cutting out, or are you done?
Yeah, no.
Sorry, I can tell.
It's all good, yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I think we're on the same page pretty much on the whole Crash thing. I was angry because I just seen the Crash trailer, as I explained. Right. But now I understand, and also it's great advertising for the younger generation to get into Crash.
Absolutely.
So I see it as an opportunity, and maybe one that I'll like someday. Yeah. So
that decision in the hands of like any other developer, especially a Nintendo or something, would have me absolutely terrified. But like the fact that it's Sony, and like as they kind of proved with this conference and many of their other conferences, if there is one like developer, if there's one company that like knows gamers right now, it seems to be Sony. And like I don't just say that as like a fanboy, because I was never a fanboy of Sony. I didn't own a PS2, I didn't own a PS3, I never owned a PS1. But like they sold me on the PS4, and like I'm really happy I made that decision and I own a PS4, because like they keep showing me like why it's great to be a fan of that company right now in 2016. And so I think knowing the way that they've been kind of like stepping up to bat and knocking like 90% of their like pitches out of the park, I feel like Crash is in good hands, even if it's Activision. And I know I'm not a huge Activision guy myself, but I feel comfortable with them and how Sony's like, at least we're getting something,
Yeah. So before we go on to what's going to be probably the whole thing of this discussion, do you want to talk about Project Scorpio and Xbox Slim? Or do you want to
I
just
don't
skip
know what a
on?
teraflop is, so I feel grossly uninformed right now. No, honestly, I find in this past like 6 months alone, I've become a lot more knowledgeable about like all of the gaming companies, and I've even like started very slowly dabbling into PC gaming. From what it seems like basically they heard about the PlayStation Neo, or they were already working on it, but because they heard about the PlayStation Neo, they were like, let's make a video where we're like, it's for developers by developers. We asked them what they want, and now you're getting Scorpio. I mean, I think it's kind of like, I feel like there's no good that comes from starting a conference being like, here's the Xbox Slim. It's the best one yet, and it's more compact, which that's a standard thing. I mean, there's, PS3 Slims, there was Xbox 360 Slims, there was Wii Slims, sorry.
My biggest thing with that is that, like, is it more expensive than the Xbox One right now, or is it, like, the same price?
The Slim or the Scorpio?
The Slim. No.
The Slim, I believe is launching...
Like, I thought it was more.
See, you gotta be careful with me because I'm Canadian, so like I'm seeing these prices like advertised a little bit differently than you, so I could be off by 100. I think it's either $2.99 American or $3.99 American, but again, go easy on me here because like whatever number I've been seeing, it's been Canadian, so like. I mean, I saw the one at the initial conference, but since then, like, there's been all these ads from like Best Buy Canada, and it's like, get pre-order the Xbox 360 Slim now for like, I think it's $3.99 Canadian, so it's probably $2.99 American. But again, please don't quote me. That's the one thing that sucks right now about being Canadian is that our dollar is so bad that it literally can make the difference of like $100.
Yeah.
But
like at first when I was watching the trailer, I was like I've been looking to get an Xbox One or a PS4, and I saw this Xbox Slim, and in my mind I instantly thought it was gonna be cheaper, and I was like, oh sweet, and then I saw the price tag. I'm pretty sure I saw a 3 in there, and because it's I believe $3.99.
Right. Okay.
And that's just I'm not gonna spend $400 on a Slim Xbox One,
Well, I think the Slim is actually like just as capable, if not more capable, than the original. I think
it definitely is. But what I'm saying is like
this is the model that like if you live in an apartment and don't have a lot of space, or you live like on your own or in Japan or wherever where it's like more cramped, you get all of this plus a little bit more, I think, in a smaller box, basically, right?
Yeah.
And like that's a cool thing, but I don't know, like it just. Again, like, I don't know why you would do that. And I do know, like, I think it's taking over the current one's price tag, and then the original Xbox One is going to go down $100 or $50 or whatever it is. Again, Canadian prices are weird. But, so basically, but again, like, just, I don't understand why you do that. Yeah. And then literally at the end, you're like, but by next fall, you're going to have the Project Scorpio. It's in the works, and it's going to be the most powerful console ever. Like, how does that possibly entice anybody to want to get, like the Slim now? Because it's like, you could literally get just a regular Xbox One for, $50 or $100 cheaper when the Slim does come out. Or you just wait and pay like, it's probably going to be like, if the Slim, for example, is $3.99, the Scorpio will probably be $4.99, right? Like, it'll probably start off like it feels to me like what's happening is, it's Xbox's way of basically competing with what the Wii U has started, or the NX, started. And now Neo is trying to do, it's like, they're these halfway, like it's points, but at the same time, it sort of feels like it's just a new console. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, the way they marketed it at least, and with a name like Project Scorpio instead of just like Xbox One Scorpio, like, it feels like, depending on how, like, the playing field goes right now and what PlayStation does, I think it could just be a brand new console, honestly. But it's just like, man, like it just takes the wind right out of the Slim sails. Yeah. Like, absolutely demolishes like any hope that console had. Now there will still be a few people to get it, and I imagine it probably will become like a lot more popular in Eastern culture, like Japan, than the current one at least. But man, just what a bad move. But anyway.
So, do you have anything else you want to talk about other than the Nintendo conference? Not conference.
No, I think we're here. I think this is it.
So, as you guys know, you're mostly Nintendo people on my channel. Nintendo had their whatever it's called, Treehouse today. Sorry. It wasn't even a direct. It felt like a direct because like Reggie came out, but it was a Treehouse thing. I liked that they took a moment for the Orlando and Christina Grimmie thing in the beginning. Like I was like, Good on you, Nintendo.
Yeah, I didn't know she was actually supposed to be like
Yeah.
slated to be on the show floor. So like that was just another like level of sadness of
Yeah.
like, man, like way too soon. But anyway, sorry, go on.
So yeah, then after that they explained Zelda, you know, these are what Zelda's gonna do, and then they showed the trailer, and it's not what I was expecting. I was expecting, you know, the E3 Zelda trailer with the Zelda music, you know, the drums coming up, and Link charging through with a sword in his tunic, and that's not what I got at all. I got the opposite. I got nature shots
Yeah, it was
with
very
piano
natural,
ambient music.
very somber. Yeah.
It was very, and then voice acting, which we'll talk about in a second. And then we got Link sneaking up on a horse and jumping on the horse, and that's when I like transitioned from to, oh my god, this is gonna be the best game ever. And then he's like running across the bridge, he chops down a tree and like climbs across the ledge with the tree, and that's the part where I was like, oh my god. And then they showed him building an ice block out of the water, and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be incredible. And then they said Breath of the Wild, and at first I was like, I do not like that name. And then as I was watching the game
Yeah, we
as
were all
Treehouse, I was like, that's actually a pretty good name. Like, you know, like I felt like we were all expecting, because it was called Legend of Zelda for so long, it's only like Triforce or something.
Like that's another perfect example of them bucking tradition. Like everybody and their mothers expected this to be like lately it seems to me they've really been like naming their games after like the companion. So like you know, Skyward Sword, like Fi was your companion, like she's the Skyward Sword. Like
Twilight Princess, Minda's the Twilight Princess.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. Like that's what I mean. Like that seems to have been their like thing with like at least
Ocarina of Time, Navi's the
for 10 years. Like that's how they've done it for console Zelda games. And like Majora's Mask, although obviously that's, but anyway.
And it's interesting. Like I saw they were talking to Aonuma about this at the Treehouse about why they chose the name, and he was like, "Oh, well, we know." He said what you said. We normally name our games after characters and
or items,
the scenarios and stuff. And he's like, "But we decided to name it after the landscape." And I was like, "That's actually pretty incredible."
Exactly. It's so refreshing, is what it is. But if I could be honest with you for a sec, I actually was not really that blown away by the initial trailer. And, yeah, it just, for whatever reason, it looked way too like, hey, we're trying to be everything Sony was at the end of the PS3 cycle. This is our take on like a Skyrim or like a GTA 5, but with Zelda. And I just really was not feeling it, honestly. But then, like, after the whole Pokemon showing, which we might get into a little later, they did the gameplay. And, like, that opening cutscene that they showed with, like, Bill Trinian and, like, Aonuma was there and his translator, when, you know, she's just, like, I don't know who that was. I don't know if that was ever explained. But that voice just being, like, you have to wake up or whatever it is. Like, all of a sudden I was like, okay, so there is voice acting. Absolutely confirmed. That's huge. And then, like, the Chamber of Resurrection, and all of a sudden, like, I was in it, because like that to me is already like,
felt like a Zelda. It felt like a definite Zelda game, just like very much trying to be
so
modernized.
Like, and I love the fact that like you're not waking up in a village, you're waking up. It is very Zelda 1 that way, where it's like you're waking up and like you literally just go exploring.
Like literally
walk
outside, and you're like, okay,
and like there's so much mystery, because it's like the Chamber of Resurrection.
Also, something I noticed was at first, exactly. Like we'll get into theories in a second. Like
so many secrets and like, sorry, I cut you.
Oh no, it's all right. Well, actually, I cut you off, but yeah, something. We can talk about theories in a second, because I have a bunch in my head. But like one thing I noticed that happened later in the day was the whole time I've been watching it. Yeah, it looked incredible. I was like, it looks kind of barren, and this is less than 2% of the world, and I was getting worried about that. And then they said, "Oh, well, we removed the towns from the E3 version," and I was like, "Oh, like that makes a lot more sense." And they're like, all the people,
and you gotta remember
everything's
too, the whole
gone.
Point of the E3 like showcase on the Treehouse Live was to kind of give gamers that sense of, like, they weren't trying to do objectives, like they weren't moving from like they were just trying to, you know, pull a Red Dead Redemption like side thing where you're just like wandering around messing with, like, you know, Bill was messing with like barrels and fire and like explosions, and just showing how much fun the world itself is, right? They really put the emphasis on the world as a character, from the title to what they showed. And I have no doubt in my mind that, like, the fact that they took that extra year with me really, like, cemented, in my mind at least, that, like, this game's going to be worth it, I think. And like I said, I was sold, and then I saw that trailer, and I was like, I've kind of seen this before. And then I saw the footage, and I was like, I have not seen this before like this.
When he got the Sheikah Slate, I was like, that's not going to be like a tablet, is it? And then Bill Trinian's like, that's going to be a tablet. And I was like, okay, well, let's see what the tablet does. And they showed it. I was like, whoa, that is a tablet. and it was like it looked. And then he walks outside and he sees the guy in the cloak, and I was like, oh my god, that's the old man from Zelda 1, and he talks to him, and I'm like, oh my god. Well, I have a theory on that later.
So
but,
many illusions. I know you do. And, I disagree with it entirely. But
yeah, I know,
but,
me
yeah,
too.
so many allusions to Zelda 1, obviously, but just like, it's so beautiful. It looks gorgeous. It like I'm sold. Like I wasn't really that sad when they delayed the game to 2017.
I was kind of expecting
I am now.
it at that point.
I am very sad about that now, because that is a game that like that is the type of game that I wish I had gotten on a plane and gone to E3 to demo.
Same.
Even though I heard the lines were like the craziest they've been in 10 years or something. Like people are going nuts for that game, and it's well earned. I think, at least in my opinion. But anyway.
It's just like so much stuff. Like I love. Let's talk about the little things really quickly. The little things, including the pause screen, where you see Link on it, and like whatever. Like if you're in a cold place and he has like not that much clothes on, you'll see him like huffing and puffing. He's like freezing. He's like rubbing his arms.
And like
and then,
like speaking of clothing. Like this has RPG elements, like the tunics you wear, the chainmail you wear, the clothing. At one point in that trailer, he's in a suit of armor, which I assume must be like probably mid-tier level of like it's very defensive, but your speed's probably like. Just thinking of it in that sense, like it's honestly it's a little bit more like and I know this isn't the game that like originated this, but like it's kind of Chrono Trigger-esque in my mind. Like that's something that you do in that game, right? Like you equip different necklaces and like bracelets and weapons and stuff, and like each one, like I love that aspect of RPG.
Yeah, when I saw that you could
Zelda.
like change your clothing, I was blown away, because that's something I've always wanted, in Zelda games, being able to change the tunic and stuff like that. But it was like just upgrade to like anything, and it affects too like how Link feels. Like if you're in a cold place, not wearing much, he'll get cold, you'll lose hearts. But if you put on extra clothing like wool or fleece or something, you'll be good. And I also loved, and they didn't show it in the trailer, which I think they should have. But when I saw it in the gameplay, I was like, oh my god, that is perfect. It's him being able to pick up weapons and have different weapons and everything.
Oh yeah,
like the broadswords.
Awesome. It's kind of like
the clubs
the
and the
early
branches.
parts, the sneaking in Wind Waker, right?
Yes.
Like when you could pick up the Moblin's weapon. Like I always loved that.
But it's like an inventory he has now. Like before, you have to drop it and like pick up. Like stuff like that. It's like he has a whole inventory. He can cook, which I think is awesome. I'm glad that they're doing away with the hearts. Like it's sad because it's a tradition of the Zelda game, but at the same time, it makes sense for what this game is.
Yeah, and why not take the risk? You can like Nintendo's never not going to keep making Zelda games. Like when Aonuma retires, they will get like this new like the guy who directed Skyward Sword is actually back directing this game. I'm not too familiar with his name. I know he was there today, or was he? I don't know. But so it's not Aonuma even directing, and like the torch is gonna get passed regardless. So like if it doesn't work and they want to go back to that, like they will in a few years. But like for now, let's experiment, because like when are you gonna get a chance where like Nintendo's in a situation right now where like as much as you think that like, oh man, nothing's selling, so they gotta rely on Zelda, it's the complete opposite. They've basically given up on the Wii U and have moved on to the NX, and like this is kind of like their afterthought, their swan song, right? So like they're probably just having fun with it, and just like like clearly they're not like trying to rush it out for like 2016, which means like it tells me they're taking their time, they're having fun, they're making the best possible game they can, and like we will probably get something pretty great. Like, although the stamina meter's back, which is interesting.
Well, I was so like, I get it for like when I saw, I was like, oh, he has stamina for climbing, but then I saw he has stamina for running too, and I was like, in a world like this, come on, like
as big a part, right? Like I feel.
Well, it has to do with like if you do a spin attack, it does stamina.
Okay.
If you run, stamina, and
that's interesting.
I'm glad that it's not as fast as Skyward Sword, because Skyward Sword is so fast. But I'm sad that it's there.
It made that game interesting too, because like it did add a few puzzle elements
into
it, honestly.
At the same time, like in this game where it's like a massive, where that part is like less than 2% of the world.
Right.
I would like to be able to run freely. Like in Xenoblade Chronicles X, I can run freely.
Yeah, but you get a horse, right? And then it's a whole nother... I mean, Epona had stamina in the first game. Like, or in Ocarina of Time, sorry, not the first game.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, it is what it is, I guess. Yeah. But it looks great. It looks great. But, I mean, I don't know about you, but I think it's finally time we address the elephant in Roy's room.
What's that?
Voice acting.
Okay. So, when I heard the voice acting real quickly, I'm just going to go over what I thought. So, when I heard the voice acting in the trailer, I was like, oh my god, you've got to be kidding me. Like, at first, the very first part, I thought it was just, like, for the trailer. And then they had it again, and then it was in the game, and then I was like, oh my god, you gotta be kidding me, voice acting in Zelda, what is this, like, Microsoft? And then I started, like, marinating on it, I started thinking about it throughout the game, and seeing what it was, and then I realized that probably, Link, I'm 99% sure Link won't have voice acting, and that's when I was like, and I'm pretty sure I said this, like, over a year ago in a discussion we had a long time ago, and I said, you know, as long as Link doesn't talk, because it's about the player taking ownership of Link, then I'm fine
absolutely.
with it. And
He's
so,
a canvas.
And I'm actually kind of excited to see who the voice is of that.
Although I don't want to cut you off here, and I am anyway, but like, just quickly, just like a quick side note, like, if you notice though that like at the beginning, like she straight up calls Link, like she says Link, wake up.
That's
like it's
true.
it's not like so.
You don't name him.
In a weird way, like I think that they're going all in on this, and like it is Link. Like I don't know, because you can't put in like Roy Boy and have like Siri come up and be like, oh, Roy Boy, like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like Nintendo's not that type of company, so like maybe you can't pick a name, like maybe they're going,
and
like,
honestly I'd be
all
okay
in
with that.
Like this is Link, like this is the first official, like you cannot change his name, he cannot be Mr. Poopy Pants, like he is Link.
I feel like the reason they did that is because this game is going to definitely be tied into a story. Like I definitely feel like, oh no, we'll get into theories in a second.
Well, they all are, but it's just interesting that like I don't know if that was a purely E3 let's show this off kind of voice clip, and in the proper game.
But
like,
they use it again when she says Link, you are our light or something
I
like
know,
that.
but they could change that, right? Like that could have just been a line specially recorded for the E3, because like they knew this is going to be a big deal, right? So like they could have had it done, and in the game it just says like you are the light that needs to fight the darkness or whatever that line was. So I don't know, like it's interesting in that sense, but it just, I mean, that's something to take away. Like they might be slowly, like as the RPG and customization like elements start to, you know, ramp up, you might see a decrease of actual like Link's gonna be less of a blank canvas, because they need him, and they need him to feel like a real character in this name and not a player, you know, avatar. Like it'll be interesting to see for sure. But yeah, I mean, the voice acting, it's gonna be right off the bat the smartest thing they could have done. And again, if this wasn't just an E3 thing, is, I mean, they got a beautifully sultry English like female voice. Like the second I heard that, it reminded me of like Friday from Avengers, and I guess she wasn't in the Iron Man movies, but like Tony Stark's like AI post Jarvis. Although obviously it's like an English accent versus like an Irish accent or a Scottish accent. I think it's Irish.
I don't know. I don't remember.
But yeah, it's like that sense of like, it's just, there's such a beautiful cadence to the way, like instead of getting just, you know, this like American with like a beautiful like anime kind of quality, but like they got like this beautiful, it's like Game of Thrones. Like I love it. I absolutely adore the voice, and I've only heard like 2 or 3 lines from it, but if that's Zelda's voice, I would be absolutely all for that. If the cast was British, I am all for that, because like,
it was funny. I saw a joke and it said it showed 2 lines of text, and it said one, voice cast so far is British, and it said 2, Link can be shirtless, and it said New Xenoblade Chronicles confirmed. And it was funny because like
kind of is,
you
though.
can do that with Shulk too in
like,
this game, where like you.
I felt that,
but
like
funny.
The thing is, the thing that Zelda will always have that Xenoblade doesn't is like Nintendo is backing it with everything they have.
Yeah.
Means,
I'm
like,
not saying it is. I'm just
going
saying
to
it's
be
pretty
the
funny.
highest quality. Like you're not gonna have that like. What accent is that Shulk has, where it's like kind of Australian, kind of like, it's going to be brilliant. And I don't think Link's gonna speak, but like imagine Ganondorf with like the voice of like imagine like the voice of Reinhardt from Overwatch, but like with Ganon, but obviously like not played for like laughs, or like not played to like, you know, be kind of a moniker, but just like that deep, like almost Germanic, like I'm excited to see what they do. Like honestly, like I am so excited for like the voice acting. I hope it's not just like this kind of like sometimes thing in the game, and like, because that's the other thing too. I don't know how prevalent cutscenes are going to be in this game. Like because the world is so open, it could be like a Zelda 1 with like a few small cutscenes kind of interspersed. Like you beat this boss, and maybe you get a quick like, you know, line or 2 of dialogue, or it could even take the Fire Emblem route where like, you know, it's still text, but like at the beginning they kind of say like the overall summary of the thought, right? So like, you know, it's Zelda talking, and she says like, Link, I'm so glad you came, but like the sound effect is just, you know, a girl going hee hee, like which they did a little bit of that in Skyward Sword. So
Yeah.
it'll be really interesting to see if like they take that and then in the big cutscenes, like they incorporate real like again Fire Emblem, right?
Yeah.
Kind of taking that, and Xenoblade as well to an extent. But Xenoblade definitely was like more voice acted, and I hope we get that in this game. And
Yeah.
I am rambling, so I will turn it back over to you, Roy.
It's completely fine. No, yeah, I was just joking around about how he kind of looked like Shulk with the without the tunic and cap.
Yeah.
So my question to you, that's actually not a question. I was gonna say, like, do you think the tunic's gonna make a return? There's no question, it definitely is. But like, I saw the cap at one point. Like, this guy walked into a house, and then one of the girls was like, "Oh, take everything," and then he's like, "Nah, I'm only gonna take what I need." And I saw in the corner, like, the cap, and I was like, oh, man, he probably did that deliberately because they don't want to show us the tunic yet.
Right,
But it was definitely Link's cap in this house that he was going in. And I was like, okay, so the tunic's coming back. But before that, I was kind of worried. I was like, yeah, they might not let it come back. This blue tunic might be the new thing, but hopefully that's not true.
No, I'm a fan of the blue tunic. Again,
I'm a fan of it too, but at the same time, I hope
that
the green tunic is definitely
while
there.
Still keeping to like the Zelda like iconic formula. Like it's weird, because it's like I really want this like new formula or the old formula, but with like all these new mechanics. So, but no, I mean I think like for sure, just the fact that trailer ended with like the Master Sword is still in the Lost Woods. Like, well, I don't know if it's the Lost Woods, but in some wooded area that like it looks like it's ripped right out of like the end scene from A Link to the Past, like where it's just kind of like sitting there, like you've put the game to bed. So like I also kind of wonder like, well, I mean, maybe this is a good time to start talking about theories. Like, where do you think this takes place on the timeline?
Right,
because they've already kind of admitted that like that's something that like it definitely has ramifications on the overall like Zelda timeline, right?
It's happening right after Wind Waker. When my biggest like
you think
oh my god face was when like he jumped in the water and a cork popped out, and I just like I was playing Overwatch and I look over while he did that, and I was like, I literally just dropped my jaw and stared at the screen for like 5 seconds. I was like, wait, they're putting Koroks in this game? Like, what?
Well, I mean, it definitely has elements of that for sure. Like it. I mean, even the tunic, the blue tunic, right? It's very similar to the one that Link wakes like when he's on Inside Island.
And maybe this is an older Link from that game. I don't know. And he got resurrected.
Though, like here's my coolest theory, and like I don't really have that many theories, but like this is the one that I think is cool, and it's not so much a theory. It's just like it's something that we need to keep in mind is that because this game starts out in the Chamber of Resurrection, this could be any incarnation of Link that's like beloved, and like so imagine the story in like Wind Waker where they're like, we waited for the hero but he never came, and so Ganon took the world, so the goddesses like flooded it. Imagine if like in this story they're like, we waited for the hero and he never came, so we brought him back. Like you know what I mean? Like like they took it upon themselves to be like, we're gonna do this ritual that like the ritual in Zelda 2, you hear like his cronies are gonna bring back Ganon, like they're gonna resurrect him. What if this Link is like the hero of time, which is also the one who became the hero shade in Twilight Princess and the same one that was in Majora's Mask? What if it's that Link that like so many people love and he's back? Or Wind Waker Link, and like they've resurrected him from, obviously he's a lot older than the Wind Waker Link, but like they resurrected him and like now it's up to him again to like that aspect of it so totally boggles my mind, because it's like, is this going to be like, who's getting resurrected? What? Because there's got to be a reason. It's called Chamber of Resurrection, right? Like,
dude was in water and the water sank and he woke up. It's something, you know.
Well, yeah, and it could be Skyward Sword Link, because again, like it could be a game that bridges between Skyward Sword and Ocarina of Time. For those of you who didn't play Skyward Sword, including my good friend Roy, although I know you know about it. Well, but you didn't like beat it. I'm about to like spoil the ending here, I'm just kind of warning people, like, if you haven't played the game,
it was a demise of an ending. I'm sorry, I hate myself.
No, but basically it ends on like this note of Skyloft is like, I think it's either no more or like all I remember is that Link and Zelda definitely leave Skyloft to go form the first like kingdom of Hyrule on like the Earth, like the mainland below Skyloft. And what's interesting about that is, I mean, that it's a world that hasn't been cultivated or like turned into like towns or not. And you couple that with the fact that like the director's the guy behind Skyward Sword, and this this landscape is still so rural, and it could very well be like the the build up between, or like the connecting, the bridging game between Skyward Sword and Ocarina of Time. And we know for a fact how often the Zelda universe likes to just keep going like pre-Ocarina, basically, because like so I mean, and it's interesting, right? And like they talk about Ganon in that game, or like Ganon has been officially like revealed.
Yeah.
Right. So like he's in this game, and like, you know, usually you need a Ganon, but well, again, Ocarina of Time kind of like messes with that a bit, but like, I mean, there could be a Ganon before there's a Ganondorf, and then Ganondorf with the dark power of the Triforce, or like the Triforce of Power, turns into Ganon at the end of like, who knows? But like, that's where I would place my bet on. Would be this is like the reincarnated hero of the sky or whatever it is, and it's Skyward Sword Link reincarnated, and like his ancestors are like living in Hyrule, and there's Gorons because there were Gorons in you know Skyward Sword, and like. Yeah, and it's like gonna be the bridging game between like that, and maybe this game will even end with like Link, you know, I don't want to say he marries Zelda, but like maybe he'll marry Malon or something, but I don't know. But my point is, maybe this will end with like the mother of, you know, Link, like the hero of time Link, being like given to the Great Deku Tree as like a war breaks out in the capital.
That would
like,
be so sick.
Right?
Oh my
like,
God.
would that not blow every like?
That would blow my mind. That'd be like
or
incredible.
It could also be the game that like bridges Ocarina of Time with Wind Waker, and at the end of this game, there could be a flood that just decimates the entire like land. Right? Like
that would be
those
crazy.
are the things that like would just blow fans' minds.
Yeah.
And if anyone can do it, it's Aonuma.
What seems crazy about this game? Let's forget about Skyward Sword for a second because I know it kind of did it too. But I feel like Skyward Sword did it in a way that like they were like, oh, we kind of have to do it for the way the story is shaped. I feel like this game has purposely been made as like something that's gonna fit in the timeline, whereas I feel like previous Zelda games were made and then they put it all together themselves in kind of a BS way. They're like, oh, 3 timelines. I don't think they were preemptively like, all right, so we have 3 timelines, right? Wind Waker's gonna go here.
Here's the thing,
as
though.
Wind Waker is being made, and I feel like.
Well, but if that's not, I don't really know if that's fair, because like if you count the Aonuma era, which is like the main console Zeldas and like the handhelds, since he kind of took over like post Ocarina, basically like every game since has found its way like into the timeline pretty flawlessly. Like even the Capcom.
But I'm saying like I get that, but I'm saying like I feel like this game has like more of an emphasis on it, like more of an emphasis of being a part of the timeline.
No,
I like the other games are a little more self-contained.
I think it's the complete opposite. I believe because like if you look at it, Wind Waker is literally like as direct a sequel as you can get to Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, I guess in this case. Like it's a complete like rehash. Well, not rehash, but like it is a complete sequel, and Twilight Princess is also on the opposite timeline.
True.
Which does make sense for Ocarina of Time. Like that's fine. The whole hero dies thing, I literally believe was just created to somehow fit the like original games that weren't thought with that in mind. But like you can tell with like Skyward Sword, and I would argue Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, there was a huge emphasis placed on making these games fit into the world and connecting to the rest of the world, or the rest of the, you know, timelines, I guess. And where this game definitely, I mean, just because like the focus is on, the wild, I think this is one of those games where like this is the most likely candidate where it's going to be made first, and then they're going to try to explain it by, you know, maybe a quick cutscene here or there. Like I feel like this game is not made to please fans of like Zelda story times and like lore and theorists. I think this is definitely a game more for like explorers, which is rejuvenating and like this kind of, you know, I mean, again, I'm just really excited to see Nintendo's take on that. I mean, you know, I thought I was sick of first-person shooters as well, and then Splatoon came out last year and totally revitalized that for me. So seeing what they do with kind of that open world Skyrim-esque gameplay, like with Nintendo, anything is possible. So anyway.
So for me, my personal theory about the timeline is that it's after Wind Waker for a few reasons. 1, the Korok thing. 2, this one's very like.
But does it? Okay, so I really don't mean to cut you, but like, so then does it take place after like what was it, Phantom Hourglass then? Because isn't that a continuation?
Well, it does technically take place after that, but that happened like elsewhere.
Spirit Tracks is like 100 years after Phantom, so like that's the thing, and like those games came out in the post like Aonuma world, so like he would have to fit this game into those. So like it can't happen between Phantom Hourglass and Wind Waker, right?
Yeah, it could just happen after Spirit Tracks though, because well, actually, it would work better if it happened after Spirit Tracks. Spirit Tracks is more technologically advanced. It has trains, it has stuff like that. Now that's just a little thing I'm saying. But no, yeah, the reason I think so is that I feel like, so first of all, reason one is the core ropes. I feel like that's a little. It's kind of weird to have those just like in there for no random reason.
Right.
1 second, I'm typing something really quick. Sorry.
You're typing something? I couldn't even tell.
Sorry. No, yeah, and then two. This is really far fetched. I have better reasons after it, but I really want to say it really quick.
Okay.
Is that the guy in the cloak, the old man? He says like, "Oh, there's no identity." He's like, "There's no need for you to know who I am." And I saw like a picture, side by side picture, and he looks a lot like the King of Hyrule from Wind Waker. Like he looks a lot like him. So he might be like a version of him that survived. I don't know, something like that.
He also sort of looks like
he was walking
Headmaster Gabora as well, though. From,
yes,
like Zelda's father from. So that's a thing too.
I also like if you noticed, you saw him like walking out of the Chamber of Resurrection, like almost like he was there or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool. And so I'm saying like, and also in the trailer where you see the first trailer we got like 2 years ago, where I was like, oh, I can't wait for this game to come out in a year. Where Link throws off his cloak. I saw this in the Game Explain video where they look at the cloak. It's basically like a shot for shot copy of like the symbols on it, of like, not the symbols on it, but like it looks exactly like what Ganondorf wears in the Wind Waker. So like that might just be some inspiration or something. I don't know. I feel like it has a lot of stuff very Wind Waker-esque in it, like the tunic.
No boats.
The art. There. Well, actually, if you looked in the trailer, there's like a raft thing that looks really cool. That might be from Zelda 1. I don't know. I just get a hunch that it's after Wind Waker. I have no solid evidence or anything like that.
Right.
But this is all like conjecture at one point.
Of course.
And so
I think at the end of the day, though, it's like you can tell that like the number one inspiration for this game was Zelda 1. Like
yes,
like
definitely
the allusions to that game, like you said, even the raft.
They have
like,
the Twin
even
Peaks, man.
things
Like, I mean,
right. Like and so I think like everything else is like simply an illusion. Like this should be a celebration, right? Because I believe 2016 is the 30th anniversary of Zelda, right?
Yeah. Although it's not
which is weird because like they haven't really been playing that up that much, like they did with Mario. Maybe because they don't have a game this fall, but yeah. So I think like it's going to be a huge kind of like celebration of everything Zelda.
Yeah.
But I do think like it's first and foremost inspiration is definitely like that original Legend of Zelda. They want to create that like experience, even just in like the demos at E3. It's like they said, not every like every person, like there's not one person who's going to know everything that this demo has to offer. They won't be able to see it all in an hour or whatever it is they're playing. And that's cool because it makes all of these E3 people like talk to each other and be like, hey, did you do this? Did you like it's like the old days of gaming. And I love that. Like that kind of playground, like share a story, share your experience, and like help each other out, kind of.
Now, I assume, do you have any more theories you want to talk about, or do you want to talk? I'm thinking that we might want to get into like before we end this, the like actual gameplay of it, because I have a few things that I want to talk about.
No, you honestly, you can just go ahead. I think I've talked a lot through this thing, and I just like to hear, what your kind of thoughts are on that.
Okay, you feel free to jump in anytime.
Yeah, sure. But no, I'm honestly like just interested in like what you're anticipating, I suppose.
Oh yeah, so when they started talking about the shrines or whatever, I feel like those might be a little tedious to do, although at the same time they seem pretty cool. So I want to know what your opinions are. Well, I'm gonna talk first about the runes. I assume you know what those are.
Yeah,
you watched the treehouse thing. On the Sheikah Slate, and that's when I was like that's when it starts creeping like on like such a brand new idea of Zelda that like you're either gonna be hit or miss with it. For me, it's a total hit. I think it's awesome. I think that a few of the abilities are a little weird, but I can get around to them. So like, for example, one of the runes is like this magnetizing rune, and like you can like pick up anything metal and move it, and it's pretty cool. It's like if you've ever played a it's one I forget what the genre is, but like you have like a terraforming thing and you can pick up stuff with it. It's one of those, and so the part that I like I didn't like it at first. I was like, oh my god, that's too much power. It's kind of crazy. But the part that I liked about it was like the chest is all the way over in the corner of the room, and she was able to like pull it out and like put it right in front of her and open what was in the chest. And I was like, that actually seems like it would cool. If they play into the puzzles right, these abilities, then it will be absolutely awesome. I just hope it's not game breaking, or anything like that. And I doubt it will be. And a few other things where like she pulled chests out of water and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And so yeah, that's like on the runes. Like as long as they integrate it into the game well, I feel like it'll be a great thing in the Zelda game. What do you think about them? I'm just curious.
I mean, I think again, it's like it's this cool level of changing up the formula, like to an extent, right? Because I mean, I imagine there's obviously still going to be your items probably. Like, I mean, I'm praying we still get a hook shot because like that's the most fun ever. A double one would be even better because shoutouts to Twilight Princess. But I mean, I like it because I think it. I know one of the struggles internally and like creatively, Nintendo, like the team. I don't know if they're EAD or One or whatever. Whoever's developing Zelda, like that Aonuma led team. I know what they've been saying for a while is like they've been trying to figure out how to solve that whole, that rinse and repeat formula of you go to a dungeon, you get the thing that lets you beat the dungeon, and then you never use that thing again.
Yeah.
And they've really been trying to solve that, and they kind of did with A Link Between Worlds. Like that was their first kind of foray into like new, at least approaches, at least new ways of using the items. Yeah. But this kind of just like does away with the traditional item like formula altogether. And like I feel like this is going to be the things that like you might still have like a hook shot or a claw shot in a temple or a dungeon, but at the end of the day, like what you'll be using through your day-to-day aren't going to be those. It's going to be these runes. And like I think that like it's just a new way for new puzzles to begin, and like I'm all for it, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
it looks pretty awesome.
It kind of reminds me of Wisps from Sonic Colors.
Oh yeah.
Except to like a much like obviously like more realistic. Well, I mean, not realistic might not be the best way, but like, I mean, it's just like it's abilities, but obviously Sonic Colors, it was like each one was like embellished or exaggerated like crazy. Where this isn't going to be that sort of case, but it's sort of that sense of like, you get like these new unlocks where you can use the slate or whatever and use these different runes and just like, I don't know, it'll be really, really interesting. And again, anything that like allows them to make new sorts of puzzles, I'm all for.
Yeah, same here. And I also saw, this is where I lost my mind, where he literally just popped on his shield and snowboarded down. On the shield, and I was like, oh my god, that's awesome. It's probably not something you'll use a lot, but it's something that'll be awesome,
Absolutely.
And the glider is pretty cool. We know what a glider is. And I love the part where like he was beating up the skeletons, and then the dude was like, oh, beat him with his own hand, and I was like laughing. I thought it was a joke, like, oh, it's a scripted treehouse joke. And I was like, that's pretty funny. And then he picked up the hand and started like hitting with it, and I was like, oh my gosh, you can actually pick up a skeleton's like arm and just like use it as a weapon. Like that's pretty cool. And the level of detail too, when he like had it like in his on his back, like for him to use it again, but like he wasn't using it, he was like moving around and stuff. It was pretty awesome. And so like, I feel like the level of detail in this game somehow, even though this is like the world is massive, like when they showed the map originally, like for 5 seconds before Beltran and zoomed out, I thought that was the whole world, and I just still thought that was massive. And then he zooms out, and I was like, oh my god, and like I saw like how big the map was, and like he used his telescope to like plant a waypoint, and I was like, that's not that far away. And then he put it on the map, and I was like, that is really far away. And like the world is massive, yet they're still able to use this like level of detail that was like brilliant and very Zelda-esque.
Yeah,
it's very Zelda, this game, which is kind of surprising.
Great. It's great.
Something and, like, that. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say like it's. I mean, we're gonna have to wait to see like what it all holds, but I'm definitely not afraid that it's going to be too big, which was like my initial thing, and like because I think there's always gonna be something interesting to do. Yeah. Like it might not be my cup of tea each and every time, but there's gonna always be something that you should be on the lookout for. Or just sometimes it's not even about like everywhere does something, but it's the fact that like the way that they'll do secrets in this game, and like you'll have to take advantage of that. Like again, like Zelda 1, that it makes you sort of feel like every area could be special. Yeah. And like that to me is like I'm really enjoying that facet of it. But anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
Oh no, like a lot of the day where they were playing it was spent with me like marinating a lot of the things going on in the game. Like it took me a while to come around on a few things, and one of the biggest things being the music. Like I was not on board with the music in game. Like I was listening to it in the trailer, I thought it was pretty great, and then in the game he starts battling the monsters. Like, oh, here we go. And I literally like said to myself, I was like, let's hear the battle music, and then nothing came up. It was just stayed ambient. It got a little bit faster paced, which isn't a lot for how slow paced it was before.
Right.
And he fought the monsters, and the monsters were gone, and I was like, okay, and I was like, I guess they don't have it at the E3 version. And then I heard them talking later, and they were like, oh yeah, the music is very ambient, even in battles, it's slow paced, it's ambient to fit the environment. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was kind of angry at first, and then they kept going around and fighting and stuff, and there were a few tracks here and there, and no matter what, I still, like, I realized that, like, that's kind of how the game is, and that's what fits the game, you know? Like, it fits the game kind of nicely. To not have the battle music, like, being, like, giant drums popping out of nowhere, and, like, Wind Waker style. Although I'm sure they'll have, like, great battle music for bosses and dungeons and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. And I think, again, they're going more, like, somber, I think is the best way to describe it. Like, they're going more, like, I imagine more, like, sort of Celtic type music, like, sort of like this kind of Irish, like, not Renaissance, definitely, like, well, still kind of medieval, but, like,
I get what you're saying.
That kind of Celtic swing to it, like, and, like, a lot of grass whistles and stuff like that. And, I mean, I love the orchestrated music of Skyward Sword. I love, what they've done with Wind. Like, every Zelda soundtrack is amazing. That should be, like, we should never question, like, what, because each time I'm always like, I don't think they can top it. There's always, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 themes that just, like, absolutely floor me, like, when you play with them, right? Like, again, it's one thing, like, if you don't play the game, you might not understand, like, how impactful that music can be, but, like, when you're in the middle of, like, a boss battle and, like, things are flying and all of a sudden, like, Zelda's Lullaby plays in this, like, tender moment between Link, like, it hits you, right? It, like, plucks on those strings. So, like, I mean, that's the least of my worries. I think the music's definitely going to be great. It's going to be different, but I think it'll be less melodic in the sense of, like, each character might not get their theme. Like, I mean, you'll probably still have, like, a Zelda theme, like, remixes, but, like, I feel like it's just going to be quieter. Like, it's going to be more natural, which, I mean, it'll be interesting, to say the least, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be awesome. Another thing is the art style, which is just absolutely beautiful. I can't, like, stop, like, looking at the pictures and stuff and, like, seeing, like, just being, like, it's so beautiful, especially when you look, like, off in the distance and you see, like, the mountains and stuff and the forests.
Yeah.
And,
no,
like,
it looks great.
The grass looks amazing and everything like that. So
I definitely still think that, like, it's very Skyward Sword-esque. Like, it's still that very, I think they said they were going for, like, a style gauche or whatever, which is, like, an artistic style, which is different from Skyward Sword's, but, like, I feel like at the end of the day, like, Link kind of has that same, like,
Link was definitely
palette.
made, like, in a Skyward Sword palette, like you said, but I feel like the world itself
in
a
I think that's the part too, right? Because, like, it's not just a matter of, like, pushing the Wii U graphically to, like, they actually have to scale down, like, the character models and the atmospheres and whatnot because of the fact that there's so much of it, right? Like, they would rather make it, like, they would rather not push the graphics to, like, the furthest point of realism if that means that they can make more and better things, right? Like more expansive, more things happening in those world, like, or in the world, right? Like, so yeah, I think overall, like, decent, way better than I was expecting. I mean, this has got to be the first time, like, my expectations were actually really low, and I'm actually very, like, happy with the turnout. I
agree. I don't know, like, when I got there, I didn't know what to expect. I was expecting it to be a letdown and be, like, a total Zelda formula game. But then when it showed the trailer, I was like, oh my god, and then they showed the gameplay. And that's when I really got into it. The first, like, 2 segments were, like, really great. And, it's shaping up to be, like, definitely one of the best Zelda games, or one of the most original Zelda games yet. And, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I'm definitely going to pick it up day one because I'm a Zelda fan.
Well, absolutely. Pre-order, right?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, Zelda's looking great. This E3 has been fantastic, and I'm so glad you and I talked about it. It's definitely gone a lot longer than we planned. We were like, 20 minutes.
Absolutely, but they always do, right?
Yeah.
But also, I mean, like, I definitely thought it was going to be more debate, but I think, like, they kind of won both of us over by the end of it. Like, we were pretty much in agreement with, and, like, the things we didn't like, we're still pretty much in agreement, which is weird, Roy, because usually we do not agree on these sorts of things.
Usually we're completely opposite, yeah.
But this time, I mean, like, I think that just goes to show how, like, universally beloved this showcase went. And I guess maybe, like, that old cliche, sometimes less is more. And maybe
Definitely.
in the case of Zelda and Nintendo's press conference or lack thereof, in general, like maybe that applies.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been awesome. Stan, thanks for coming on and doing a discussion once again. It's been a while, but it was still a blast to have you on.
Of course, thanks, Roy. I would love to start a podcast, but
Yeah.
you have been a busy man.
Yeah, we should definitely start like talking about that again over the summer.
We'll figure something.
Yeah.
Maybe it might not be a weekly pod, but something where we can
something-
put these and
something
not
awesome.
have it. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all Fire Emblem month coming soon, and have a great week or weekend or whenever you're watching. Have a great one.
And remember, guys, keep on gaming.
Keep on gaming.